DEF CON as well, so I'm a DEF CON noob. In fact, I just got here yesterday through flight delays and all that type of jazz. So you guys are getting Nikkia by way of Maryland to Chicago, back to Maryland, here in Vegas, and you're just gonna get me raw this morning, okay? I was told or asked to come, hey, can you come speak at, the Blacks in Cyber Village? The founder, CEO, Michaela and I go way back. We both started, her with Blacks in Cyber, me with WeSys, and we just have grown, and our paths are parallel but drastically different. I took a very non-traditional role and kind of fumbled into FedCyber, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Actually, I'll talk a lot about that today, and then if you guys see on the screen, I have USA Jobs up for those that are interested in getting and landing a cybersecurity career within the government. Going to give you some cheat sheets on how you guys can do that. By show of hands, is anyone here to learn how to get a job in the government? Oh, don't worry, it's okay. Listen, if you're not, I will not be offended, because sometimes I still ask myself, why am I still here? But I love the mission, I love my job, and I love knowing what I'm doing is at some point saving and helping this nation, even by way of cyber supply chain risk management and looking at the supply chain and those different touch points. So I'll get into kind of what I do later. But about me, who am I? Nikkia, I go by Little Cyber Sis because I am little, and I am from Fresno, California. I'm a Valley girl, but I live in a Maryland world. I always say that. I'm a Cali girl living in a Maryland world. I do not claim Fresno. It's just where I'm from, but it's where my roots were. And I will say, from looking back from where I was to where I am today, I never thought I'd be here. I came from a small town. Fresno wasn't that big, and I had three options. I either continue working at Jack in the Box, which I still love to this day, become a baby mama, which I was like, I'm not about to do, or get out, right? Get out or go to jail. And I was not about going to jail, so I got out. I moved to Maryland, and I flourished on the East Coast. I still claim Cali as my hometown. However, the East Coast and Maryland have been very good to me. I try to tell people the sky's the limit. Everyone who is sitting in this room, you're here today either out of curiosity for the subject at hand. You're here at DEF CON because I don't know if for those that's your first, you got in. But everyone that I say that's sitting before me today, there's a reason that you're here. There's a reason that you're here to hear what I have to say. There's a reason that I'm about to tell you what I have to say. I am unscripted. I did not do a presentation for this, and that was on purpose. I wanted to be as authentic and as organic as I possibly can to share my story, because that's what they asked me to come talk about. Working for the government, I started in 2010, and quite surprisingly, I used to be a commercial real estate building manager. Oh, gotta sing now, gotta sing. I started working, I was a commercial real estate in downtown DC, so I was actually facilitating the construction, design, build of the high-rise skyscrapers you see on K Street, on L Street, on M Street, doing building inspections, but making sure that the physical infrastructure of a building was secure and sound and safe for the occupants that was there. Fast forward to around 2014, I transitioned from, 2010, I transitioned into the federal government, doing the same thing, but doing it for government buildings and government facilities. Biggest portfolio I was working in was in Baltimore. I was working at the federal courthouses, and again, responsible for keeping the federal courthouses safe and secure. 2014, I'm managing a federal courthouse. We have big cases, big trials that are coming up. Be surprised at what you see. I was like, oh man, I learned a lot working at the federal courthouses. But the thing that really got my interest was there was a hack at a national retailer. I'm not gonna name names because I don't do that, but this hack was through an HVAC system. So if you guys know anything about hacks around that time, then you guys kind of know who I'm talking about. But it really sparked my interest because I went immediately up to our engineer rooms. I love engineer rooms. To this day, I look up and I see, oh, there's mismatched lights and they haven't fixed that and that damper needs to be changed. But anyway, I digress. I went up to my engineers when this hack happened. I said, hey, I was like, are we secure? Can someone hack our VAS? And they're like, what are you talking about? For those that don't know, VAS is your building automated system. It is pretty much the electronic system that keeps your lights on, that keeps your HVAC going, that keeps your temperatures adjusted. It's what controls the building. It's the heartbeat of the building. And all the building systems that operate. Your doors, your security alarms, your fire alarms. If anything were to happen in here right now, it'd go to a panel. Your engineers get pinged on their cell phones. Well, no longer cell phones, but their pagers, not their pagers, oh gosh. Not their Nextels, their cell phones, whatever, their walkie-talkies. So they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, you know, can we get hacked? Can they come into, you know, our BAS system? Can they, like, I don't know, make the judges really, really hot? We get a lot of complaints, like, because judges don't like to be hot. Can we close, like, can it affect the garage? Is the garage door gonna be able to open? And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay. So right then and there, I had the idea of, well, if I'm responsible for protecting the physical infrastructure of this building, how can I be responsible for protecting the critical IT infrastructure of this building? And then I went down a rabbit hole. Anybody in cyber knows you go down rabbit holes, you get an idea, and poof, you're gone, off to the races. So also around this time of this HVAC hack, there was also the Edward Snowden days and situations that was coming up, which struck really close to home at that time too, only because his mother actually worked in my building and I knew her, and I was like, oh man. I was like, so I have this going on here, I have that going on there, and I had two big projects that I was getting ready to bid out. One was a rekeying to rekey all the systems and all the doors in the building, the key cards upgrading because they were old school, upgrading to key card readers, and a server room upgrade. So I had to upgrade our server room. So all that was a perfect storm, which made me say, let me go ahead and pursue a career in cybersecurity, because obviously that's where things are going to start going. That's how things are going to start shaping up. That's the future of where security is going to go. So I got my master's in cyber policy. I'm a policy GRC chick. I didn't go the technical route. I will be completely transparent and honest. I'm very dyslexic. So sitting there trying to code and knowing that I have to go back and figure out where I did a backslash instead of a front slash, I was like, this is just not for me. Like, can't do it. Like, the way my brain works, it inverts the last two of everything. Last two letters, last two numbers, last two words, whatever. It inverses everything. So I knew that coding was not for me. I love The Matrix. I love Neo. Keanu Reeves is my man crush. I'm just gonna say that. So I was really big on how it works. And so I took the classes to understand how it worked, but I did not want that to be my day-to-day life. My day-to-day life was putting up the bumpers, you know, the guardrails in which hackers should and can play within, and what defines if they go outside of those bumpers and guardrails. That's my swim lane. And so yeah, I ended up going, I got my master's, and I ended up transitioning to a position within the government where all I did was teach and train those that were buying government services and products the importance of good cyber hygiene in federal contracting. Boring stuff, nothing exciting, couldn't break a lot of things. But what I was able to do was to get to the front lines of those that are responsible for making sure what's introduced into the government's ecosystem was safe and secure. And why, as a contract specialist or a contract officer, or even as a purchasing agent, while their job was very important in keeping this country and this nation safe. You have to get their buy-in, you have to let them know that they're important. This isn't just something that we're adding to increase their workflow, to increase their job, just one more mundane task. And I was good at that because, you know, they went home feeling proud, knowing that, hey, you know, I'm actually making sure I have language in my procurement that is protecting this nation. I mean, I actually had a couple of years later come back and say, you know, after going through your training, I never looked at contracting the same. I was like, hey, cool, job accomplished. Good job, way to go. Good way to keep this country safe. And it's advanced, right? You talk about like the advancement of technologies over, what are we in 2014, last 10 years now. How we buy our laptops, how we buy our mobile devices, how we buy our software, for the very services and the very ecosystem and infrastructure that we all rely on today, is very important to think about. How do we buy that? Who is that company owned by? Does that company have ties? And you would be surprised when you start going down that rabbit hole and that spider web where that leads you to. Because when you find out that so-and-so's niece is married to so-and-so's cousin who resides back in a such and such company that we shouldn't be doing business with, and they just got awarded a $1 billion government contract, you're like, well, get your wheels thinking. Makes you be like, I didn't look at it that way. I didn't look at it that way until I got into it. Now I'm always looking at it that way. When you think about the chips that are being manufactured, that are put into our tablets, our cell phones, everything that we use today has some type of connection to the internet, has some type of connection to the IT infrastructure that we rely on, whether it's our home network, whether it's our smart cars, whether it's our smart refrigerators and baby monitors. Like, everything that we use has that component. And if we're not making sure we're keeping the purchasing and how we're doing business with these vendors, vendor risk assessments, vendor supplier elimination, trying to make sure we understand where these vendors are coming from and following that rabbit trail, then we continue to get into situations that we get into. And I don't mean to say that to scare you guys. I kind of went a little deep. I wasn't trying to go that deep this morning, but that's just where the conversation took me, so that's kind of where I'm at. So what do I do on the day-to-day? As I segue into that, that is my role. My role is to look at how the U.S. government and all the entities are doing business with the vendors that we select to do vendors with. But on the second hand of that, a big component of my job is to increase the awareness by training, by seminars, by webinars, by tabletop exercises. In the event this was to happen, what would you do? In the event right now, the building, in this room, all the lights went out. Would you freak out? What would you do? You can't get on your phone. Cell phone towers are down. What would you do? What happened if we just got hacked? But then when you're trying to figure out who's behind it, was it human error? Was it like, some prank, some joke? Was it a real threat? Is it a real threat? How do we respond to that? And coming from the building management side, I can look at it from two lenses. One is, how do I get you all out of here safely, right? So that we're not stampeding on top of each other, that we all make it out of here safely. But two, on the backhand, on the IT side of that, what happened? What broke and who broke it and why? Now, the evolution of, well, what do you want to do with your future? What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm still figuring that out, but you get into cyber law. You get into how do you craft the laws to pursue the cyber criminals that are causing the mass destruction? How do you put in laws and regulations that protect the American consumer? I don't know about you guys, but every week I'm getting some type of notification that some system has been hacked that has my information in it. Anyone in that same boat? Like, every day. Every week, it's like, get another email, hey, by the way, your information was stolen. Privacy to me is an illusion. I tell people that all the time. I was like, my information already out there. Like, okay, you guys are just recycling the information. But still, I digress. Like, that's how my mind works. That's what my job entails. Those are the type of things that I do. And if I can help encourage and motivate the upcoming workforce to start thinking like this, to become more proactive instead of reactive, to start putting in the policies and procedures in place today, right now, then, small needle has ripple effects, big results. May not be here to see it, but at least I can plant the seeds now. That's why I'm here today, that's what I'm doing. Secondly, one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is that within the federal government, there's a big disparity between private sector cyber and federal cyber, right? Disparities in regards to just pay, training, opportunities, learning, hands-on experience, on-the-job training. And I'm not gonna, bust any myths about what they say about government and federal employees. You get what you get. There are some of us that are very passionate about our jobs. There are some of us that take our jobs extremely seriously, and there are a lot of us that are not lazy. We actually work our 8 hours, sometimes 10, sometimes 12, to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do. You guys think about this is 2024, it's an election year. My agency is responsible for election security, or a component of some of my coworkers are looking at that. You know, how secure are our polling systems? I'm not getting political because that's not my realm, that's not what I do. But when we sit here and know that the job that we're doing still has that impact, they take their jobs very seriously. They take their jobs home with them every night, just like anyone else. You know, are they chasing money? Are they chasing dollars? Maybe not. Government pay is not as lucrative as private sector pay. If I left the federal government right now, I probably can double my salary, but I don't. I like the mission. So if you're looking and you're interested in a job working for the federal government, know that it's going to be mission-based. It's going to be mission-focused. It's going to be rooted in the mission of that agency or that organization that you're working for. Prime example, Health and Human Services, right? They do a lot of policy regulations, but also set the standard and the tone for how healthcare in this country is administered. They do a lot of policy setting just for our health, me as a human, as an American citizen. They also have a huge IT force. They have a huge cybersecurity force. One, because that's billions and billions of all of our data that can go through their ecosystem. When I think about the CDC and the policy and the regulations that they're putting out, when I think about Social Security Administration, you know, when we are ready to retire, you know, if that database that they have is wiped clean, then what? I actually had a cool project where I got to work with SSA, building one of their new data centers way out in Maryland, and the amount of servers and electricity that we had to bid in to just keep that facility secure and safe. It surprises you, but hey, this is a place that, you know, has everyone's like social security number. Like, okay, think about if that had an HVAC hack, then what? You know, you have to think about things like that. Practicality. I'm a very practical SME. I'm a very real SME. I look at things for what they really are, and in the lens of how they really are. My agency, CISA, I'm here in my volunteer role, just FYI. But since it's a new agency, I love it. I love the mission. I love that it's earth-shattering. I love that it's like glass-shattering. I love that our director is a female who goes around this country and can hold her own at the table with any and everyone. But she speaks real. She just calls a spade. This is how it is. Not to alarm you, not to scare you, not to mislead you, but here are the facts. This is what it is. And that's like kind of the same tempo and tone that I have. Working for the federal government can be daunting, it can be challenging, but that's with any job, you know? But I don't do it for the pay. The reward that I get is knowing that my job is, in essence, at some point affecting everyone here in this room. How little, how mundane the task may be, when I'm frustrated, when I don't feel like doing it, that's what keeps me up at night, and that's what keeps me going. So, I asked earlier who was interested in a job in the federal government, and that's the one question that I always get. Well, why is it so hard to get into the federal government? How can I get into the federal government? What jobs are there for me in the federal government? And one of the things that I will say, now I've been watching this. I'm gonna actually give you guys a live demo. Oh man. Can you sign into the laptop in like Hey man. Sydney, can you get me into the laptop? They had a party last night. Nah, I wasn't here. But what, oh perfect. Yeah, if we go to the USA Jobs tab, that's good. So one of the things that I'll say, getting a job in the federal government is a job in itself, but getting any job is a job in itself. Your resume is your first line, that's gonna represent you. But one of the things I wanna show you, how to find cybersecurity jobs within the government. So if there's one takeaway that you guys have from today, it's like, how do I find a federal cyber career? This is what I wanna tell you. The number that I want you to remember is 2210, right? When you look up 2210, that's going to pull up all of the government jobs for cybersecurity right now. And this is what's important, 565 jobs in the federal government. And I've been watching this for the past 8 months. That number hovers between like 470, 580, right up in there. On any given Sunday, you go in there, you put in 2210 at USA Jobs. That's how many jobs that are out there. So when you hear, oh, I can't find a job, there's no job market, I don't know what's going on. The federal government is one of the biggest employers in this nation. DOD and civilian agencies, 565 jobs. There's what, maybe 30 of us in this room? That's a job for one of us plus some. You look up 2210, that's gonna pull and that's gonna search all the federal cybersecurity jobs. Now different titles, different disciplines, different tracks, and I'll get into a little bit of those as we go through this. I usually do a more comprehensive in-depth into how to navigate USA jobs, but I wanna show you some of the things that you guys need to know as you're looking at the jobs within the federal government. First thing you need to know is 2210. So takeaway, I'm looking for a federal job, 2210 is how I'm able to find them, right? Then you need to understand, well, am I eligible? Can I apply for this job? Can I even, am I qualified for this job? The vacancies are confusing, folks. I'm just gonna be honest and tell you that. They contradict themselves sometimes. You have to read them with a fine-tooth comb to understand, can you be eligible and apply for this job? And if they call for certain things in your resume, like the number of hours you work a week, if it's a full-time or a part-time position, what are some other nuances they may ask for? They may ask for the number of college credits you got. If you don't have that in your resume, you can disqualify yourself, even though you're a well-qualified and skilled candidate for the position. They're very, very particular about the resumes and what they require in them and what you put in them. So I say that to say, make sure you read the vacancy in its entirety, right? Are there any veterans in the room? Are there any veterans? Yep, whoop, whoop. I wanna give a shout out to our veterans. Thank you for your service. There are special hiring paths for veterans as well, right? So the numbers in parentheses tell you how many jobs are vacant. There's 169 cybersecurity jobs within the federal government today. 169? Yep, for veterans. So if you're a veteran, you're looking for a job, there's 165 opportunities out there for you. Now you can narrow that down by location, you can narrow that down by, where you stay, you can narrow it down by several different factors, but just wanna go ahead and show you that. How many students? How many students are in the building right now? 1, 2, 3, so we have a handful of students. Let's say I'm either in college or I recently graduated from college. Right now, if I go ahead and look, there are 20 student and recent graduate vacancies that are out there. So if you're fresh out of school and you're looking for a job, the federal government is a good way to come in. They'll pay for some of your training depending on what agency you get. You don't have to go into the whole I'm stuck in student loan debt. You have job security and you can grow. Individuals with disabilities, me, I qualify in this. Like I said, I am dyslexic. I do qualify for this. But in today's time, disabilities look different for everyone. It may not look like what we think it is. You can have a disability and it doesn't have to be broadcasted, but will also qualify you for a job within the government. Other questions, mission critical career fields. This is a new one that they put on there, but cybersecurity, project management, and STEM. The government has become very aware how important it is to have cybersecurity professionals and have made the commitment to invest in the future cybersecurity pipeline, right? That's important. Our future generation are gonna be the ones that's leading this country, but they're gonna be ones staffing the positions in the SOCs, pen testers, zone testers, all those. Those are gonna be the new future of us. So let me get into, really quickly, how to understand the vacancy, right? Just so that you guys can walk through and you can see what I'm talking about. When you want to know who can apply, who is this job open to, all this information is going to be up front right here to tell you who can apply for the job. It'll tell you where the location is. If you're looking for a remote position, sometimes there are remote positions that are out there. It will say it's remote, and then you guys can apply to the position that way. But this right here is you're looking at, I want you to pay attention to clarification from the agency. Because while it says this job is open to the public, to military spouses, to veterans, and all these other who it's open to, it also says that you have to be 30% or more disabled veterans hiring authority. So what does that tell me? It may be open to the public, yes, but if I don't meet that criteria, if I don't have at least 30% disability with my vet's preference, then I might as well not even apply. They have things there, well, clarification from the agency, it will say that only employees of this agency can apply. But it just said it was open to the public. But how is it as open to the public and only, you know, it's, again, you have to read it, you have to understand it. If it says it's open in other announcements, it means that, you know, other individuals across all the government can open, or may say they may have a concession here where a different type of demographic can apply for the job. That's important to understand, just so that you don't go through the whole process of applying for a federal job and then HR to come back and say, oh, well, you don't meet this criteria off the job. You've done all that work, you've applied, you've answered your resume, you've written your resume. By the way, most federal resumes are not like public sector resumes, right? The components to a federal resume are much more detailed. They're usually in block or paragraph style, and they're usually much, much longer. In private sector, they say a resume should be what? How many pages? 1 or 2, right? Federal government, you're looking at 5, 6, 10, depending if you're going like an SES route, right? Minimum. And sometimes you'll get disqualified, or to be like, well, your resume is too short in the federal government. You're like, what? I tried to condense everything down to 2 pages, did what else? No, they want to see. Part of getting hired in the federal government is 1, how well can you write, and 2, how well can you follow directions. And following directions is what's listed in the vacancy. Like, did you follow the directions to successfully even apply? Because if you can't even do that, but it's confusing, I know, trust me. I spend hours and hours helping folks do this, do their resumes and prepare for the interviews. Drug tests. Talk about this for a minute. It's really big, right? You need a security clearance. But, you know, with certain laws and regulations and certain things becoming legal and pretty much all over the country, still not legal at the federal level. Still means you have to get a drug test. Some agencies, you can be in a position that's a drug test position, meaning that they can randomly test you at any given time. Or you could be in a drug test position where you have to pass a drug test prior to getting your final job offer, and then that's it. No different, but again, you have to think about that, especially the students coming out of school. I always say, make sure you think about that. Can you pass a drug test? Just being real, just letting you guys know what it's like. So it talks about the conditions of employment, what's required, what are the things that you need to do. A lot of this is like standard text that you're gonna see in federal resumes and in the vacancies, but I want you to look for specialized experience, right? When it talks about specialized experience, that's what your resume should be highlighting and should be saying. Your resume should demonstrate your specialized experience in these 2 categories. Experience with government information technology services and information systems. And I tell people this all the time. 1, you are the asset. There was 565 jobs when we first started this. So what does that mean? You're needed and you're sought after. But 2, you have to be able to give a narrative of how you have experience with government information technology services. And some folks will get caught up on that word, well, I don't have experience with government, I have experience with the school system or state and local or private. I tell any and everyone, don't talk yourself out of it. Talk yourself into it. Do you have experience with IT systems? Okay, good. Do you have experience in cybersecurity? Yes. Are you a pen tester? Yes. What company do you work for? Research your company. Does your company have any government contracts? If you work for company A, B, and C who has a government contract, even though you may not deal with that government POC day to day, you still have experience dealing with government IT systems. So you see how if you just have a different mindset, you can change the narrative and talk yourself into a position versus, nope, I don't have it, I'm not gonna apply. Let them tell you you don't have it. Let them tell you that you're not eligible. This one, so this one's requiring you to have a CISSP. Anybody in here have a CISSP? Oh, congratulations, good for you guys. I don't. I'm actually studying for my CISM, but CISSP is probably, I don't know, another year and a half away from me right now. But if it says you need it, then you definitely need to have that certification. And one of the things with government, they used to be really big on like education, you know, you go through the conversation, is it good to have your degree or is it good to have your experience? I'm starting to see more and more where they're asking for those certifications in the vacancies. So my suggestion to you all, get your Sec Plus, get your Network Plus. If you want to go in a leadership route, go in a leadership track, definitely make sure you get your CISSP. Cloud is really big in the government. But where are we at today? What's the biggest and hot buzz topic today? AI. So if you have certifications in AI, if you have your degrees in AI, if you're working with AI, you're definitely going to be ahead of the game. And not just the government, right? I'm just talking about in general. But I'm saying since the government is usually slower than the private sector, they're changing kind of how they're hiring. What I've seen, this is just Nikkia's opinion, I've been tracking this and been in this space for a couple years. They're now looking at private sector SMEs to come in and help run government agencies, to help bring that private sector expertise, because private sector are the change agents. They're dealing with the tech, they see the tech. They don't have all the red flags, they don't have all the hurdles that they have to get over, but if they can bring that expertise into a government agency, you're coming in at, you know, maybe a GS 13 or 14 if you can bring that expertise to you. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind how you set yourself apart. Last thing I want to do is talk about this one. Luckily here it says to preview the job questions or vacancy questions. I'll let that load. Now, some jobs, most jobs will have that. Oh, this is an easy one. Yes, good. But all federal jobs, most federal jobs, not all, but most. I've seen it only a couple times, maybe like 2. It will say 11:59 is when you have to apply for the job, submit your whole application package, right? Don't be a procrastinator like me and wait till like 11:50 and start the process, ready to submit, blah, blah, blah. Because you can get into a vacancy that has an additional questionnaire that you need to answer. And that additional questionnaire may have anywhere between 10 to 20. I think the most I saw was like 32 questions. Some of them multiple choice. Some of them, they don't necessarily do KSAs, which are, you know, mini essays anymore, but they will say, give me an example of when you completed this project, wrote out a new software, implemented within the agency, blah, 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 and you have 1,000 words to say it. So yeah, you are writing an essay. If you wait to the last minute and don't realize that this questionnaire is there, you're not gonna get it in time. Just make sure you look at that. What I normally do is go in, I save the jobs, I act like I'm gonna apply all the way up to the 10th hour, and then I see all the requirements that it's gonna have, and I save it, and I go back and work on it. Or just put some dedicated time to work on it, however you wanna do that. It asks you a whole bunch of questions, hiring authorities, where you wanna work, some of the same stuff that's in the vacancy. But something else that I like, this one, it has the knowledge, skills, and the KSAs. Knowledge, skills, and abilities. When you're looking at the multiple choice here, and it says you want to be considered an expert, are you proficient in, do you do regular reoccurring high level review? Those words that are bolded here are what's considered keywords in the federal hiring process. So your resume needs to have the keywords demonstrated all throughout your resume, not just in one place, not just in one job, not just in one title, not just in one position, but all through your resume, right? Because it's a scoring system. It's like with anything else, it's a scoring system. It goes through, you have, your automated system, and the myth that I just, recently found out is like, yeah, there is a human person that's looking at your resume and looking at the responses. There's a human being that's like there, that's gonna say, okay, yep, this person looks good. About average 30 seconds is what they're looking at your resume. So how is it? It's a 5 to 10 page resume. You're telling me on average you're looking at it for 30 seconds and to determine if I'm eligible or not. It's usually up to the hiring manager. So you have the first gate, which is HR, that's gonna say, yes, this person is qualified. That goes on to the next stage, which is the hiring manager, who is usually like the supervisor or the person on the team that you may or may not be reporting to. It could be a branch chief. But then they determine, okay, these are the people that we wanna interview. And they can easily say, we only want the top 5. So out of, 400 applicants, we really only want to interview the top 5. How do you get into that top 5? 1, by not eliminating yourself off the break. 2, by putting your best foot forward. virtually on a resume, following the font. Boring resumes, yes they are, structured, boring, not fancy, not private sector, not colors, not all the jazz, not bios, not pictures, none of that. Times New Roman, 12, point font, single space, da 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 da. But how do you do that? Lastly, like I said, they're gonna ask you to, you have what, 10,000 words here to put your narrative in there to show how you do that. It can become very comprehensive applying for a federal job. I always say it takes a lot of patience, right? It takes a lot of patience as if you're flying on, the black and yellow airline that you have to have a lot of patience with when you're getting ready to fly. Just saying. I say all that to say, once you go through all that, you get your job offer, it's still one of the best feelings in the world. It's still good to know that for students, there are internships, there's a scholarship for service program that you can go through. There are a lot of information out there about federal internships and how to get a federal internship. They open up in different cycles. Federal agencies go through Blitz. Cybersecurity is a hot hiring blitz right now. Department of Energy is really looking for top cybersecurity talent. DHS and the DoD, of course, are looking for cybersecurity talent. HHS is another one of the agencies that's looking for cybersecurity talent. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I've been tracking it, so I know which agencies usually have the most jobs. DOE is infamous for remote jobs. They have a lot on the board right now that are remote based, so you can work anywhere in the US and the country, just in case you're interested in applying. And then you apply, right? I skipped a lot of steps, but you guys get the gist. You get the gist that applying for a federal job does take a lot. Your resume does not look like a private sector resume. You need to have your keywords, but that 2210 is gonna help you find those jobs that you're looking for and pair you up with that agency's mission as long as it aligns with your core values. As for me, I don't know. I may be a lifer. I haven't decided yet. Right now, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. I feel very satisfied. I feel very productive when I go home at night. But I do like working within cyber supply chain risk management. I love that. I love following the different touch points and knowing like, ooh, who owns this? Who is this person? Why are they trying to bid on this? Where are they from? I have 5 minutes, I think, until the next person comes up here, and I have time for 3 questions. So if there are any questions, shoot away. Yes, ma'am.
I work for a state government, public university, and of course, as you said, the pay is less for state and federal. One of the reasons I took the job is so that I could bring to the mission, passionate about the mission, but I found out when you start to branch out, it's a stay in your lane, and then if you start to talk to the upper people, it's like stay in your box. So I was hoping for more collaboration for taking less pay. Do you have the same experience, or are you encouraged to collaborate sideways, up, down?
So both. In previous positions, I've had that here's your coloring book, stay here, stay in your lane, speak only when spoken to type of like environment, right? Where I'm at currently, collaboration is key. That's all we do. Like cross collaboration, leadership will pop into meetings. They're very collaborative, currently where I am and what I do now, and they foster that. But ways that I overcame those challenges, I always say the squeaky wheel gets oiled, and I just continue to be a squeaky wheel. So even though it was like, no, this is your job, yes, this is my job, but you have to get senior leadership buy-in. Like, you can make your supervisors look good, if you can make your leadership look good, if you can give them success stories that they can take to their stakeholders, you're golden. So I used to always find those little success stories that helps upper management get what they're trying to get. Yes, sir.
Any suggestions for like moving within government, like different agencies that you consider?
Yep, so the question was any suggestions about moving within the agency. So I would say if you come into a 2210 series, move only within the 2210 series, right? Which is that IT series. There's like a 0343, which is like general administrative type of positions. It's like the catch-all. But one of the things that I have found, I went from a 0343 through to a 2210. And I've had more doors open as I continue to navigate through the 2210. because it's so specialized. But I will say, one, stay within your series. You don't have to, it's not the end all be all. But two, networking is key, right? You have to network. Make sure you have a good sponsor in the government, which is like another branch chief or someone who knows the quality of work that you do and that can vouch for you and say, hey, I want that person on my team. Or they can reach out and say, hey, we have a detail coming. I think you should detail over to me. Details are another way to take advantage of positions within the federal government. Details are usually 120 days. Sometimes they can be extended, but you can use those to pivot to your next type of position, type of role, to take advantage of details. And three, always network. Like, they have skip level meetings at some agencies where you get to sit down and have coffee with like the senior leadership. Meet with them, get in front of them, make sure they know your name. Like, I mean, that's what I do. I take advantage of all skip levels, sensing sessions, or anything where I have an opportunity to get in front of senior leadership. One more question in the back, and that's it.
Okay, so as a technical culture, and it sounds like to get into government as an associate professional, it's more work, less pay. What's the upside?
So he says, get into the federal government, sounds like it's more work, less pay. What's the upside? What's the benefits, right? It really comes down to me, core values as human beings and as individuals. Do you want to be in a position that's mission focused, or do you want to chase the money? Do you want the clout that comes with sometimes in private sector, or do you like working behind the scenes, knowing that what you're doing, regardless of what federal agency you're at, is protecting American citizens directly? So usually it's like a gut check, and it's more of a personal check. And I will say, lastly, job security, right? Like, private sector, it's at will. You can get your slip and you gotta be out of there, you gotta go. It's a little bit harder to get fired from the federal government. It's a lot of it hired. So I will say that's another one of the reasons some folks come, because of job security. And then two, training. You know, they have pretty good training budgets to help you get the certifications and the things that you need. Okay, with that, I see the guys lined up in the back. I think I'm about to get like pulled off stage, so before that happens, I want to say thank you. This is your first DEF CON. Go mingle, go network, go meet somebody, link in with people on LinkedIn. Other than that, I'll be around. Thank you all so much.
Thanks for the good talk.
Yeah, good talk. Thanks.
Yeah. So I went the other direction. I did 10 years in the military, 2 years in the GS, 3 years as a government contractor, then I went corporate.
I didn't talk about that.
I did the iron triangle and I jumped. But it's actually funny because my mountains are coming back. I just left 6 years ago. And I'm trying to decide what my next thing is. I'm done in San Antonio. So it's all right now I'm looking at some startups.
I was saying that's I don't know what like that. Do you have slides?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have your own laptop?
Yeah, is that cool?
Yeah, it's fine. You just plug into the HDMI and the audio there.
And I had a secret thoughts that I
Is everything on? Yeah. Sorry. These two.
Does it? What's the audio for?
This audio is to make sure if you have any sound
I
on
got
your
you.
HDMI. Hopefully that don't mess up anything.
Hopefully I don't mess up anything.
So I'm not gonna tell everyone to move up. I'm gonna tell like a joke or something, and I'll give you like a short introduction, and then that'll be. Okay.
Stop, sorry. Childish. Just make sure everything's working real quick for a while.
Hello, good morning everyone, welcome. So I've been doing this thing all day where I've been asking everyone, is this Can you raise your hand if this is your first time at DEF CON? Okay, I see y'all. That's like the best I've had all day. That's really good. So I would just like to welcome you and tell you that you have a really good day ahead. And then I've been telling like these cybersecurity jokes that I think are really funny, but I don't know. I don't know what y'all gonna think about it, but hopefully you like them.